Call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Councilmember Leach is absent. Approval of the agenda, we have one addition, 7F, accept resignations for Police and Public Works Department. Is there anything else? Council? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with that addition?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Shallon, seconded by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes, the October 4th, 2023 regular meeting. You all received them in your packet. Is there any questions, corrections, or clarification on anything within those minutes? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 4th meeting?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. This brings us to our public open forum. Is there anyone here that would like to address anything to the council? Is there anyone that wants to speak to the council? Call a third time. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the council? Our public open forum is now closed. We have no public hearings. We'll move on to our reports and presentations. First is the Lifesaver Award. Kathy?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm here to report the last life-saving award that our service has been involved in. So if I could have the participants please come forward. We have quite a group tonight.
Yes.
Jamie? Jamie?
That uniform looks great.
That's all right. No, you're fine.
All right, on September 5th, 2023, Wanda and Tony Arns were doing what they normally do during this time period every weekday, watching Jeopardy. But today there was something different. Wanda got up and then told Tony that she didn't feel good and thought he should take her to the hospital. But Tony knew better. He has had what he told me is a mega training through his work. He's had a lot of CPR and first aid training. So he's had his training over the years through his work, and he knew the signs and symptoms of a heart attack. He told Wanda he's going to call 911, which he did. So at 4:37, while Tony was still on the line with the 911 dispatcher, the Sauk Center ambulance was paged to their residence. The page indicated that a female possibly having a heart attack. That started the ball rolling with local officers in the area starting to head in that direction. While still on the phone with 911, Tony reported to the dispatcher that Wanda had passed out. He checked for a pulse and finding none, moved her from the couch to the floor and started CPR. Dispatch updated officers that CPR was being started and paged the Sauk Center Fire Department, and the Sauk Center ambulance backup crew had also started responding. Tony reports that it was exactly 7 minutes when officers started arriving. State Patrol officers, Stearns County deputy, and Sauk Center police officers. Officers indicate that Wanda had agonal breathing and no pulse, so they took over CPR and inserted an oral airway to keep Wanda's airway open. They attached the automated external defibrillator and it gave the signal to shock, which they did a total of 4 times over the next few minutes. Tony said the house was soon full of people. As the fire department arrived, along with the first and second ambulance crews, and then the Lucas was attached. The Lucas is the automatic compression machine that we put on the chest. A more advanced eye gel was inserted, and a bag valve mask was then used to continue breathing for Wanda. She was loaded onto a backboard, taken to the ambulance. En route to the Sauk Center Hospital, an IV was established, and CPR and rescue breathing continued. At the hospital, it was determined that she had the return of her pulse, and a helicopter was called for an advanced life support transfer, and she was flown to St. Cloud Hospital for further advanced care. So we're lucky we have Wanda with us tonight. I've talked to Wanda and Tony a couple times over the last couple weeks to get the information that I put in our report, so they're happy to be here. So we have life-saving pins awarded to State Trooper Matt Schmitz. Stearns County Deputy is not here tonight. Stearns County Deputy was Tyler Thunstead. Then we have Sauk Center police officers. Dean Jungles, receiving his third Sauk Center PD Career Save pin. Preston Otterer, receiving his first Sauk Center PD Career Save pin. And Branton Stoll, receiving his first Sauk Center PD Career Save pin. Sauk Center ambulance crew members, Tim DeShane, receiving his third Sauk Center ambulance career save pin. Cheryl Brown, receiving her first Sauk Center ambulance career save pin. Jessie Hoppy, receiving her fifth Sauk Center ambulance career save pin. Nick Welly, receiving his second Sauk Center ambulance career save pin. And Richard White, receiving his second ambulance career save pin. So congratulations to these crew. The American Heart Association has their chain of command, chain of survival. The early 911 access, followed by immediate CPR, AED, transport, and advanced care. So if you look at this scenario of events, the chain of survival was followed just to a T. It started with the early 911 recognition of the signs and symptoms, and early CPR provided by her husband, Tony Arns. So with that, I present this to you. Thank you. And then the officers in the ambulance with AD, Lucas, advanced airways, transport to the hospital, and then advanced care. And Tony wanted me to just tell you guys that he was just amazed at how professional everyone was, the great response times that he had, and just how that whole room full of people, and it was just mass chaos, he thought, but everybody worked so well together and was so professional. It wasn't chaos at all. Everybody came in there, worked great together, got the job done, and that was great. So this was definitely a team effort. And because of this group of people here, including Tony, her husband, the beat goes on.
Boy, your uniform looks nice. Who does those uniforms for you? Yeah, it's me.
Congratulations.
I thought it would work better if they put the cake up here.
Okay, as long as we got Kathy here, we're going to do the ambulance department quarterly report.
Good evening again. So I've got the third quarter report for the ambulance service. In July, we had 29 no loads, 0 ALS transfers, because as of July 1st, they weren't sending nurses along anymore with us, but we had 5 ALS transfers that went out through Centricare. 26 BLS transfers, and then 39 medical calls for a total of 94 runs and activities for the month. That's the fair month, so includes that. That compares to 97 for last year and 40 10 years ago for the same month. And of those 94 reports for July, the total number of calls that were billed out was 65, for a total of $69,579. In August, we had 14 no loads, 0 ALS transfers by us, but 1 by Centricare, and 26 BLS transfers, 29 medical calls for a total of 69 runs and activities. And that compares to 88 last year and 71 10 years ago in the same month. And of those 69 runs, we had a total billed out of 58 for $58,515. In September, we had 19 no loads, 5 Centricare ALS transfers went out, and 25 BLS transfers, 33 medical calls for a total of 77 runs and activities. And that compares to 81 from last year and 70 10 years ago for the same month. And of those 77 runs and activities in September, 58 were billed out for a total of $65,215. So for the third quarter, we billed out $193,310. You can see where all the transfers go. Still we're doing a lot to St. Cloud and our local hospital, of course. Third quarter special events, we had the multi-casualty incident drill with the fire department, and we had 2 football standbys. For mutual aid, for third quarter, we did 1 transfer to St. Cloud for Melrose. Excuse me. 4 transfers for Long Prairie Hospital, 3 went to St. Cloud, 1 to Wilmer. And for North Ambulance out of Alexandria, we were paged once for mutual aid for a crash, but we were canceled. We did 1 medical for Melrose where the patient was taken to St. Cloud, 1 medical for Melrose with no transport, and 1 medical for North, which was taken to Osakis. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. For hospital SIS for third quarter, we returned patients to the residence 3 times. For medicals within our own primary service area that were taken to other hospitals for third quarter, Alamere and Alexandria by patient request, we had 2. We took 1 to Melrose because Sauk Center Hospital diverted us. The MRI machine was down in Sauk Center, so that is to take the patient right to Melrose for the test. And then Glenwood by patient request 2 times, and then diverted to Melrose by Sauk Center Hospital 1 other time. I don't know if they were full that time or if their machine was down again, I'm not sure. And then Melrose by patient request was 1. We gave up 1 transfer due to staffing shortages in third quarter, and 1 we had to give up, another transfer we had to give up because we had 2 rigs already out on transfers. We have to keep our 3rd rig in town for 911 calls. So we had to give up that 3rd transfer because the hospital couldn't let it wait. The fair statistics, we had the fair booth, 5 of those runs in July, 1 for each day was the fair booth. We do a standby where because we're out there taking blood pressures. So we started an event for that. We had 3 demo derbies, 1 for each night of the demos. Medicals transported from the fairgrounds, we had 3 total. 1 was a bee sting and 2 were heat issues. And then demo contacts, we had 1 that did not get transported. They were hit with a clump of mud. So we checked them and released them. And we did have our ALS inspection last Thursday, and we passed. So we're waiting for the EMSRB board approval at their meeting on November 16th. Once they sign the paperwork, which our representative said is just a formality, they have to do it at their meeting. And then they sign the license, and then they'll mail them out to us, our part-time advanced life support license. And once we get that paper in hand, then we're legal to respond as ALS after that. So hopefully the ALS transfer is getting taken by Central Care will diminish if our 3 paramedics that we have on our roster right now are available for those. They'll be able to take those. That'll cut back on the Central Care coming in. Had a lot of questions from the public over the last few months about everybody's seeing Central Care coming through code all the time, so. Any questions for me?
Questions?
No
Keith?
questions. I did just, when we look at the, I know we're past this, but the life-saving award, seeing that many with multiple, I think that speaks a lot to the training that all of our emergency crews in town have, and we should feel very fortunate. So thank you for your crew and the others involved.
You're welcome.
It's
Makes
really
me
impressive, so.
Very proud to have them on my crew.
Any other questions, comments? Keep up the good work.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, police department didn't show up, so we're going to Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Over the past month here, we're kind of changing over from summer to winter activities, so all the park bathrooms and sprinklers have had their water lines blown out and winterized for this year. We are doing a bunch of the weed spraying in the parks right now and doing any mowing and mulching as necessary. Street sweeping has started up, so that'll be going for the next 3 weeks or so to get all the leaves once the trees let go of everything. We did install the new street signs in Authors Edition, and we'll be putting up the lot signs next week, which will label Lot 1 through, etc. Conservation Park bathrooms, we did do that remodel. We did that with our staff. This project turned out to be a very nice update to those bathrooms, so looking forward to be able to use those next spring. Ice is being installed at the arena this week, so we'll have that ready to go for the first practice, which is scheduled for next Monday. Plow trucks and sweeper all received their annual DOT inspections. Did have a couple minor repairs, nothing major. Got that done, so they're all stickered and ready for the winter season. Plows are out, wings are on, it's all ready to go. We did go through our other winter equipment, such as snow blowers, etc., and that's all ready to go as well. We did get our salt delivery for the season. And the compost site, that does require management daily right now with the amount of material coming in during the fall, so we've been up there quite a bit, just making sure that that stays neat and tidy. And then we did go get our cold mix last week, so we're all set for any winter patching that may arise. Any questions I can answer for you?
Well, now they've predicted snow for Friday, not this week, but next week, so
Friday.
we're all set to go. Very good, Ben.
We're
Thank
ready.
you.
Let's
Thank
hope
you.
it waits.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Planning Commission report?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet, you have a copy of the Planning Commission agenda from our October 10th meeting. We did hold 5 public hearings at that meeting, so there will be action items later on your agenda. Building permits. For September of this year, we had $717,000 worth of building protection value, and a year ago, we had $495,000. There's about 27 permits issued last year. You also have a copy of the quarterly report, which has the valuation, construction valuation, the permit fees, and state surcharge and plan check fees. So it's kind of the total of all our fees. And so far, we're at $67,000 in total fees for this time of the year. Any questions for me?
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Sarah.
you.
Vicki, are you planning on doing the police department report, or are we just gonna read what we've got in there? All right, we'll take care of that. Okay, we'll move on to action items. 7A, approve resolution 2023-71 interim use permit.
So we have items A, B, and C are all interim use permits for short-term rentals, so we'll kind of handle those together. We also had 3 at the prior meeting, so you'll be familiar with those. But the Planning Commission at its October 10th meeting held a public hearing to consider a request for interim use permits to utilize existing structures as short-term rentals. The city previously adopted an ordinance governing that use. I did include a copy of the ordinance for your reference. The property was utilized as short-term rental prior to the adoption of the ordinance, therefore lot sizes and separation distances don't apply to these three that we have in front of us tonight. We have the applicant of Michael Felling, doing business of MEF Properties. He proposes to rent his home at 553 Lake Street to persons for a shorter term than 30 days. The second one is from, get to that page. The second one is Adam Fiddler, and he has property at 807 Lakeshore Drive, which actually has 2 residences on it, a house and a cabin. And the third is Linda Michaels and Greg Peters at 221 Main Street North. So we're looking at those properties. Following the public hearing, the board recommended that the interim use permits be granted with the performance standards in the ordinance listed as the conditions, as well as the requirement that lodging tax be paid to the city. As you can see, the performance standards are that the overnight occupancy would be set by the county, and we would have no more than their lodging license allows per bedroom, plus 2 per building, such as if they have a sleeper sofa. The daytime occupancy is limited to 1.5 times the overnight capacity. The parking designated with the vacation short-term rentals has to be located off-street and meet the requirement of our parking code and nuisance parking. They have quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. All their garbage, refuse, and recycling has to be enclosed within designated containers. We need emergency contact at all times that can be able to respond within 30 minutes. We don't want somebody out of state managing these. And the licensing, the licensees have to keep reports of who they have in there so we can get a copy of that if we request it. And the owner shall keep in force its lodging license from Stearns County at all times. Expiration of that lodging license also subjects this permit to suspension, and also that they're subject to the city's lodging tax. We did have actual positive support at the meeting. We had the one for the Lake Street property. The neighbor actually spoke in support. And then another one asked how the violations are documented, and also if there would be impact to property tax. And I've had the property tax questioned several times. The county could view these as a commercial use, if they get to be used quite a bit. But that doesn't affect the neighbor. If the neighbor is a residence, the residence is a residence and the other would be commercial. So it could have an impact to that person that has the interim use permit, but not necessarily the neighbors. And then also the one on Main Street, there was a concern regarding renters backing out onto Main Street from the residence. However, there is ample space for a turnaround, so they'll have a turnaround that they can turn around and pull out forward. So those were kind of the concerns that we had regarding that. So following the public hearings, the Planning Commission did recommend that the resolutions be granted. That would be Resolution 71, 72, and 73, granting those interim use permits to those 3 properties. And that is the request I have of you tonight.
Any questions, concerns on those 3?
I'll make a motion to approve
Okay, we have a motion by Diane to approve all 3.
all 3.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7D, approve resolution 2023-74 preliminary plat Gulf View.
So the Planning Commission also held a public hearing on the preliminary plat for Gulfview Edition on October 10th. The plat is now presented to the City Council for review and approval. CNSP LLC, which is Cody and Sarah Nelson, they're the current owner and the developer, and this is the property of the acreage between Fairway Pines and Main Streeter Apartments on Main Street. They're subdividing into 4 residential lots intended for twin home construction to be subdivided and individually owned. And the drawing that you have shows 5. The southerly one is a separate lot, and then the ones north of that are the new plat. But they're all being developed together. The preliminary design for utilities was completed to ensure that all lots can be serviced by municipal utilities. They are being installed by the developer with inspection by the city, and that's going on right now. I believe they were backfilling today. And so as we inspect that, then the developer will be billed for time and expense for our inspector to be on site. They will have driveways, will be shared to minimize the curb cuts and access points onto Main Street. So there will be 5 driveways accessing onto Main Street. For this particular plat, no park dedication fee is required, as the underlying plat provided for the dedication earlier. So that property already made the park dedication to the city. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we're looking to approve Resolution 2023-74, approving the preliminary plat of Gulfview Edition. Once the utilities are in and all of that is done, then they will come back with the final plat. A little bit different than we did the city when we can do the preliminary and the final together. As a private developer, we'll get that development in, or the utilities in before he comes with the final plat, and that eliminates the need for the performance bond and the escrow. So, but that's Resolution 2023-74, approving the preliminary plat of Gulfview Edition.
Questions, comments? Usually, doesn't the plat need to be totally approved before they can start building and doing everything out there?
The preliminary plat generally is approved ahead of time, but because of the weather conditions and because our engineer is the one that's working on the actually design, that we were able to get them in the ground quicker.
Okay.
So it's more of a factor of how much time we have before winter.
Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2023-74?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion by Shellen, do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Second, Diane seconds. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, 4 in favor, none against. 7E, approve Resolution 2023-75, variance, Hokanson.
So at its October 10th meeting, the Planning Commission, acting as the Board of Adjustment, held a public hearing to consider the application of Christian and Christine Hokanson for variance from the setback requirement for the Oregon high water mark for the purpose of placing a 10-by-16 portable storage shed closer to the OHW than allowed. And this property is at 717 Lakeshore Drive. The request is to place the shed 30 feet from the OHW, where 50 feet is required by shoreline standards. They've requested locating the shed at this location due to the topography of the property. Lakeward of the proposed shed is a 2-tiered railroad tie retaining wall. Landward towards the house is a slope. The proposed location is the most level, therefore requiring no grading or excavation. So we have in front of you Resolution 2023-75, granting the variance to Christian and Christine Hokanson. Also in the resolution itself, they have the findings that the Planning Commission adopted to support that variance.
Questions, concerns? Otherwise, do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Shellen, a second. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, 4 in favor, none against. 7F, accept resignations, Police and Public Works Department.
We have 2 resignations before you tonight. The first is Branton Stowell. He's tendered his resignation from the Police Department effective October 27th, 2023. He's been with the department since May 20th of 2020. He has accepted a position with the department closer to his home. And Jackson Zenzen has tendered his resignation from the Sauk Center Public Works effective November 1st, 2023, and he has been with the department since June 8th, 2020. So what we're looking for tonight is to accept the resignation of Branton Stowell from the Police Department and Jackson Zenzen from the Public Works Department.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept those resignations?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, 4 in favor, none against. 7G, approve resolution 2023-76, accepting bid for ambulance.
So at our prior meeting, the council authorized staff to solicit bids for an ambulance to replace the city's 2015 rig. The ambulance would arrive late in 2024 or early 2025. The bids were sought according to the requested specifications with the following results. Lifeline had a bid of $244,297, offering $25,000 for trade for our existing rig for a net of $219,297. PSV had a rig for $261,143 with a trade-in of $39,500 for a net of $221,643. So staff did review the specifications to make sure both met all the specifications that we had put out there, and are recommending that we go with the low bid from Lifeline Emergency Vehicles for $219,297. And note that the power cots are not part of this, if you're looking at this compared to the last one, because we'll be addressing a new cot system in the coming year. So in the next year to, I think they said estimated arrival date could be as much as 725 days. So between now and then, we'll be making a decision on the new power cot that'll go in this rig. So we're looking to approve Resolution 2023-76, authorizing the purchase of a 2025 ambulance.
Questions? Concerns? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2023-76 going with Lifeline?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second? Chair will second it. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7H, approve Resolution 2023-77, authorizing execution of closing documents.
So this has to do with the airport, and as part of our airport layout plan and regulations passed down from the FAA, the city will be required to have ownership of property in the RPZ, which is the runway protection zone, rather than easements over it. So the runway protection zone is off the ends of the runway, and most aircraft accidents happen on takeoff at the end of the runway, and so they want us to own that rather than have easements over it. It's part of the encumbrances we agree to when we receive federal FAA grant funding. The owner of the property in the RPZ at the east end of the turf runway approached the city with an interest to sell his property. So we reached an agreement that satisfies the FAA requirements, and a purchase agreement has been presented by the buyer. The airport board requests that the city enter into the agreement and purchase the property. The purchase price was $440,000. The federal share will be $396,000 for a city share of $44,000 for the property. The city would then need to remove all the structures from the property, but it can be farmed. So we could lease it out to the farmer, like for crop farming, like we do the other airport property. One other small bump here is that they had, it wasn't clear in the purchase agreement, but verbally they did tell me and they asked me to clarify. The buyer wishes to take the 2 buildings that are the barns. One's an older pole shed, or I guess they're both older pole sheds, and he would like those to be included in the purchase agreement. Because they weren't in the original purchase agreement clearly, I said I would bring it up to the board tonight to see if they wish them to go. Now, keep in mind that we need to get rid of the structures anyway, and it could cost us money. However, other people have expressed interest, and whether that's valid interest or not, I can't say. So what I need to do tonight prior to you authorizing us to execute the purchase agreement is to make a determination on whether we want to let those 2 sheds go. Typically, in a pole barn situation like that, they just cut the poles off and they move the building, and then the new building is shorter, closer to the ground, or they put it up on some kind of foundation. So that's a discussion that I would like to have the board have tonight, to say, do I go back to them and say, yep, take those 2 barns and go? Or do you want to retain ownership of those two buildings?
So the purchase price was arrived on based upon the appraisals. Was there any contributory values given for those buildings in the appraisal that determined our purchase price?
No, what they just look at is how they could, well, I suppose slightly there could be, because they need to try to find other properties similar. This was very difficult because there isn't anything real similar to that, with 11 acres and a house and a couple of pole buildings on it for this purpose. But we had to do an appraisal, and then they had to obtain appraisal. So the 2 appraisals then is how they came up with the price. Really, it has more to do with the land, knowing that we have to remove the buildings. And we have to remove the house too, which also in the spring we'll probably be advertising. I talked to Ben a little bit about, and he can maybe address this if you like, but the size of the package of the one, I think, is like you could do a Menards $10,000 package, and put it together. So I don't know that there's a great deal of value there, and whether we would get anybody interested in the cost of moving them if they were to buy them, and maybe we'd end up just giving them away. It's a risk we take. If we want to retain them and try to sell them, or incur a cost of removing them, or give them away, it's kind of a little bit of a risk there.
Yeah, and that's where I was wondering what the value of those buildings were maybe assigned to the, purchase price. And if if we have to remove them and there's an expense to it, more so than the properties, the values given, then I don't see a reason to keep
agree.
them.
No, I agree with you.
The preliminary one I saw had a negligible value to the one building
Yeah.
and had a $500 to $7,500 value to the other building.
So it costs us probably more to get rid of them than it does to.
It possibly could unless you had someone come and take them. I
Right.
don't know.
And it'll be a cost that we don't incur if
Right.
they
Yeah.
take them.
Yep.
Basically, then it's only the house.
I
So,
say we just let them have those buildings rather than have to pay to take them down.
That's where my thought was as well.
yeah.
Is that the official motion? Or
Do you need a motion for that to approve?
I think just if you authorize the execution of the agreements and just part of that motion, say that including the 2 barns.
Okay. So do I have someone that wants to entertain that motion?
Go
I'll
ahead.
make the motion.
Okay. Motion by Shallen
I'll second.
and seconded by Diane. I didn't repeat what he said, but I take it you understand.
Pardon me?
You understand what the motion was,
Yes.
right? Okay. Any other discussion?
I do have one more question, and maybe this isn't the best place to bring it up, but was there any further information that we'll have on the rental piece? I know that was one of the things we had talked about.
They had talked about staying there and they're going to be moving out.
Okay.
They will be possibly, if they end up leaving the barns till spring because of weather, and then they would pay to leave the barns there at $200 a month until they take them.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? We have a motion and a second. I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7I, approve advancement of EMR.
So Kathy Strufert, Ambulance Director, recommends that Jordan Hartman be removed from his probationary EMR status. He has been with the service since April 29th, 2023, and since that time, he has had favorable reviews and has well exceeded the minimum patient contacts as required. So what she's looking tonight is just to approve the removal from probation for Jordan Hartman effective October 19th, 2023.
Any questions or concerns? Otherwise, do I have a motion to approve the removal of the probation?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. That brings us to our consent agenda. We have unpaid claims of $143,653.66. And we have September checks, payroll slash paid claim slash payroll for $1,380,252.81. We have a gambling application for exempt permit request from Holy Family School for a raffle on December 20th, 2023 at the Holy Family School. Is there any questions about the consent agenda as presented? Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
A second?
Second by Shallen. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Informational items.
Just have the one informational item tonight, and that is our charter communications channel lineup. They're always changing. The 2 that they're adding now is HSN2 and QVC2. So if you're one of those TV shoppers, you've got a couple more channels to choose from. So, and that is all I have.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Joe, second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.